Well, thanks for tuning in to the market wrap. And it's Friday, and it's an interesting day of trade simply because if in the morning, if the belief was that after the great crash, we could consolidate a bit, it proved to be wrong simply because the markets really bounced back. So we probably still have resistances at the higher levels, about 11,100 odd or thereabouts. We are at about 11,000, 11,050. So 11,000 to 11,100 to 11,200 is that resistance range. We've kind of eclipsed that today with this 2% move. Let's wait and watch if this can turn around more. But today was a mirror image of what happened yesterday, isn't it, viewers? We had two stocks gaining yesterday and 48 declining. We have three stocks declining today and 47 advancing. That tells you a story of how quickly the mood just turned around in the session today. And global markets are okay. We'll talk about that. But a lot has to do with the individual movers. So technology came to the fore, yes, but I think a bit of risk taking appetite came in because look at the diverse set of moves. Finserv, a financial name, HCL tech name, Cipla, pharma name. Then you had Airtel, Larsen and Toubro, Grasim in between, Adani Ports. So very diverse set of names doing well, and the big heavyweights not doing that poorly. As a result of which we did what we did. The broader end of the spectrum would be interesting as well, simply because I'm sure that the market breadth, if not an exact mirror image, would be a bit of a turnaround. Well, almost a mirror image, if you will, as well, right? So the market breadth too look very positive. There were gains for stocks like NCC India, Ashok Leyland, etc. Vodafone Idea had this uptick because of this news bit around how Vodafone has gotten that arbitration award, and I think probably Nickey will speak about that. Dimar Infra had this big gain because of the SEZ sale that they've done, and Vinati and a few others did well. What didn't do well, GMM Fodler, but those were few and far in between. But Nickey Johnson to talk about the specific names as well. Nickey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Niraj. Pretty much it was defensive at play. Cipla did well. You had a bunch of IT stocks who did extremely well after the Accenture guidance came in. But I'm going to start off with Infra. GMR Infra did exceedingly well. The last time I checked, the stock was up 11.5% in trade. Early in the morning, before the market hours, the company declared that it's going to be divesting entire stake, almost close to 51% in Kakinda SEZ to Oro Bindo Reality. Within that, 100% of equity stake of a gateway port held by Kakinda SEV will also be transferred with this transaction. This happened for a consideration of around 2,610 crore, and the proceeds of this transaction will be used for the in-debt to majorly reduce the indebtedness of GMR Group. To remember the plan, the fact that the company or the group over a period of time has been planning to divest across the verticals, be it in lines of airports, power business, power and industrials, highways and gold mines, all across. There is a very conscious effort which is coming in on terms of a debt reduction. And this development which is coming through in the early part of the morning just testifies the kind of intent that the group has at this point of time. What we also have in our list is Cipla, which did exceedingly well and also was one of the top gainer that we had in Nifty 50 index today. After the company, there were a few reports, the CNBC report, which suggested that the company is now looking at an acquisition in the US market, which would be related to respiratory and ill-tailor segment. This could be to and range. The entire segment, if you're supposed to look at the kind of revenue that it could make, it could be to the range of 700 to 1,000 odd crore. So it will help build US government institutional order business for Cipla. Did exceedingly well. This buzz did exceedingly well, and we saw some amount of traction building in for Cipla. Also, what did well is, Coforge, where IFL initiated a buy rating on the counter with a target price of nearly 2,550 rupees. It said a couple of things at this point of time are working in the favor. Specialization in emerging technology, which is ensured at this point of time. The company is the fastest growing one in the mid-cap space, especially after the turnaround that we've seen in the management. There is a strong guidance coming in. There is a strong order book visibility coming in. So all of this actually augurs well, and there's a buy rating which has been initiated on the counter. One of the top gainers that we had in the IT index. What also did well was other IT stocks on back of Accenture guidance. If you look at the numbers that came in or were reported yesterday, EPS missed forecast, or rather Bloomberg estimates, but the read-through of these numbers on Indian IT counters is extremely positive. It says that they see, a strong revival coming in the second half of the financial year, something which most of the brokerages have been aligning. Acceleration in digital transformation and cloud migration is the medium-term growth driver. This is what Jeffries has pointed out, and they've suggested that this particular driver is expected already there for Indian IT firms, which seem to be, favorably positioned right now. They continue to like the whole space at the moment, and Infosys is their top pick. Neeraj, I'm going to quickly tell you about what is also lined up in the next week. Vedanta is coming up with results next week. The date has not been announced. You have a couple of listings. You have CAMS IPO, Chemcon IPO. All of that you will see the listing coming in the next week. And also 3 issues which are going to be opening up. One is the Mazgaon Dock. You had Likita Infra, and also you have UTI AMC, which will, the public issue will open for subscription next week. Niraj.
Interesting to see Chemcon and CAMS in particular, Nickey. But just before we wrap up and before we talk about global markets, just want to show Nickey one more thing. Vodafone Idea and the sharp rise that we saw intraday, right? It's a big thing that has happened. This is, of course, the Vodafone Idea stock price. I don't think Vodafone Idea, the listed entity in India, benefits in any material way whatsoever. But the news that did come out was that, let me just read it out for you. That there's an arbitration against the Indian government over retro tax demand of 20,000 crores, which Vodafone has won in The Hague against the Indian government. Now, it's a big statement. It's a big one. It will make international news, let me assure you that. So don't look at it just from a stock perspective. Does this bring about a change in the way Indian tax authorities look at how they look at arbitral awards and whether or arbitrations and whether it can be resolved in an out-of-court fashion? Big statements. I am sure later on in the evening we at BloombergQuint will do something about it as well. But yeah, this is the big thing that came in, Nickey. So very, very interesting. Last but not least, before we wrap up the global markets, and just want to point them out once, we looking slightly soft for the CAC, and the DAX not so much for Euro stocks. Actually, even that's down 1%. Save for the FTSE, everything else is looking slightly wobbly. Let's wait and watch if this optimism that we had today, whether it continues into the next week as well or no. But Nickey, you're right. A lot of IPO activity which stays true, and I think it'll be important to monitor next week, not just from a markets perspective, but from an IPO perspective as well.
Yeah, I think most of the people are going to be watching out for Chemcon specialties, given the kind of subscription number that have come in. So clearly, we're going to be seeing if the listing date, gains or the trick once again works for the investors who've just been allocated this IPO.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see that. But well, on that note, from Nickey and myself and the team that put this piece together, thanks so much for tuning in, and have a great weekend.